Hey folks, I'm Chris Brenton, and in this video, I want to talk about the investigation menus. What they are, how they work. My discussion is going to apply to both the Community Edition as well as the Enterprise Edition. The only difference between those two is that with the Enterprise Edition, I'm allowed to go into my config.yaml file, go down to the domain sources section, and I can actually modify what these menus look like. I can add in additional entries. If there's entries that are there that I don't want for some reason, I can delete them, whatever. But I have that customization capability with the Enterprise version. I do not have it with the Community Edition. With the Community Edition, you kind of get what you get. So what are these investigation menus? Well, anytime I'm in a screen, if I have an IP address or a fully qualified domain name being presented, I can click on that, and that will give me the ability to go off and do further investigation on it. So for example, here I have cdn.onenote.net. If I click on that, I get a little menu that pops up, and I have a number of options to work with. So I could copy that domain name to the clipboard if I wanted to. I could also jump into one of these third-party websites. And again, if there's some tool I like to use that I don't see listed here, if I'm running the enterprise version, it's real easy to go in and add that in. But let's say I wanted to see what does VirusTotal know about that environment. Well, when I click on it, you can see it loads up VirusTotal site, and it passes that fully qualified domain name over so that VirusTotal can then come back and tell me, is there anything known to be suspicious about this particular endpoint or not? It can be really helpful to kind of run down, who manages things. Notice they got a copy of the digital certificate here to be reviewed. This can be super helpful in kind of figuring out, is this something I need to worry about or not? I can also do that with IP addresses. So for example, notice that cdn.onenote.net was actually getting relayed through multiple different IPs. Well, I can click on any one of those IP addresses, and then I can go in and notice I actually have a couple of additional options beyond what you can look up with fully qualified domain name. There's more IP lookup tools out there. And let's say I'm going to just jump into Alien Vault. And this will come back and show me, what does Alien Vault know about this IP address? What's been associated with it? API.hertz. That's interesting. That'll be another video. But you can see, this makes it super easy to kind of jump around. You have the option on the internal IP address as well. So for example, I could click on the IP address and I could jump into Deep Dive, which is one of the modules within AC Hunter. And Deep Dive is going to go through and show me everything that system was talking to, and all nicely color-coded, and I'll talk about this screen in another video. But you can see it's real easy to go in and quickly navigate out to another tool. The source one, if you're running, let's say, like Carbon Black Response internally, again, this is enterprise users only because you can't modify these menus with the Community Edition. But if you're an enterprise customer, and I'm using Carbon Black Response, I could add my Carbon Black Response server to this menu. So now when I'm in and I'm looking at something and I say, gee, it'd be nice to see what Carbon Black knows about this internal IP address, I could just click, bang, I'm into that interface and I'm off to the races. If I'm running, some sort of syslog server, maybe it's just a generic syslog server, maybe it's Splunk, maybe it's an elk stack, it doesn't matter which. Again, I could modify this menu, add my centralized logging server to the menu. And now when I want to do additional investigation on this system, I simply click the entry and bang, and off I go. And we'll actually pass this IP, or in the case of fully qualified domain name, off to this third-party source so that it's automatically either a search or a sort or an index option, depending upon what tool it is you're actually having it relay off to. But this can make it super easy to be able to go through and kind of run down some additional information about each of your endpoints. But that is the investigation menus in a nutshell. Hopefully you found this video useful.